Welcome to the Immerse podcast. We are your hosts, Dan Ramsden and Alex O'Keefe.
Join us and our guests as we dive into real stories of entrepreneurship, health, fitness and self-mastery. No fluff, no filters, just honest conversations that inspire, educate and challenge the norm. Let's get into it.
Yes, we are back. Welcome to another episode of the Immerse podcast. I am your host, Dan Ramsden, and there is no Alex O'Keefe today. So this is very different. I'm joined by a very special guest, a friend of mine called Mark Kilner. Mark, can you sort of describe what you do? And then I'm going to come on to introducing you as an elite endurance athlete. I know you don't humbly put yourself in that bracket, but I'm going to say it because of the things that you have done and that you're about to do. So I'm going to start with that.
Yeah.
And then you take us on a little journey there of, you know, what do you do? What's brought you into this world of endurance as well?
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about your journey there?
Yeah, of course I can. So, I mean, firstly, Dan, thank you for inviting me on. It's a shame we don't have Alex, but it feels like one of our one-to-one chats that we normally have.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason why I'm here today is to perhaps share some of my story and maybe inspire some of the listeners to, you know, consider what they might want to do. What I do is I do endurance sports, and I've been doing endurance sports now for over 25 years. And that's really kind of come from being a little boy, being brought up in a market town called Skipton, playing out in my wellies, you know, and when we used to play out on the estate.
Plenty of fresh air out there.
Yeah, we'd kind of share wellies. It was the old hand-me-down culture back in the days, but we'd share wellies and we'd go out and we'd play in the fields for hours. And unbeknown to me, I was kind of out in nature. And that drive led me to doing quite a lot of running and getting involved in a lot of sport. And then from there, I progressed from sort of doing fell running into like mainstream sport, so like kind of football, more so than rugby. And at 16 years of age, I joined the army. So I'd done average at school. I got one GCSE. And my mum thought it'd be a good idea for me to join. So that's what I did. And as a consequence of that, my life changed. And for the next 9 years, I was institutionalised. But what it was doing, of course, it was building my engine, it was building my resilience, and it was building who I was as a person.
And that's something that's deeply ingrained in that world, isn't it? You know, endurance, going through hardship, team, putting other people first.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, those sorts of things they get, and that were from 16 years old, right?
Yeah, I left.
Didn't actually know that about you.
Yeah, so I left when I was 16. I was nearly 17, so you don't forget, you know, I joined on the 8th of January 1990. I was 17 on the 23rd of January, so I was just inside my 17th birthday. But I kind of didn't leave with any trepidation. I left with, well, what could happen? So my what if was a good what if rather than a negative what if.
Yeah.
So I embarked upon that journey. So I learned a lot of key skills, and I learned a lot about how to look after yourself, but how to look after other people. So there's a lot of core things that came from that I really enjoyed. But on that endurance journey, particularly when I kind of left the forces, I needed to do something. I was out in the commercial world, trying to make my way. So I decided I was going to get into doing more triathlon. So triathlon kind of became my endurance sport. And it's same as anything else. You look at what's the highest thing you can achieve. And at that time, it was doing Ironman triathlon. So in 2005, I embarked upon doing Ironman Brazil. So I flew out to Brazil, went to a place called Florianópolis. So it's in a state called Santa Catarina, which is interesting in itself because it's quite European. It's not what you perceive from the Brazilian football team, you know, from what I used to watch back in the 80s and 90s. And I went and I completed that, and I did all right. And I went on to do around about 9 Ironman triathlons.
And that were your first one?
And that was my first. It wasn't my first triathlon, but it was my first Ironman.
So what was that like in the weather conditions? Because I'm guessing it was really hot.
It wasn't too bad. I would, you know, from what I can remember, it was sort of like late 70s, early 80s. the conditions really mainly were in the swim. So the swim was a nightmare. If you can imagine, it was a sea swim and it was done off the beach and it was done in like a backward M. So you'd swim out to a buoy, then you'd come back onto the beach and back out again and then back in. But you couldn't see the buoys because the sea was that kind of choppy. So they put boats behind the buoys. Needless to say, I think nearly everybody who got out of the swim were sick. And I've got pictures of me looking grey.
Really?
Yeah. So for the first
That's proper survival shit, that though, isn't it? That's scary.
Yeah,
stuff.
it is, but
Mother Nature can be ruthless.
Yeah, but you're on instinct, right? So kind of, I hadn't planned for that. I kind of just had to go and decided, well, I've got to get back to the shoreline anyway. So, but coming out, I was quite sick. So for the first 30 miles of the bike, I was kind of struggling to get kind of fluid in, but I was just trying to get water and trying to settle my stomach down. And the bike's 112 miles. So the course itself was relatively kind. There was some climbing in it, but not too bad. The road conditions were pretty good as well. So it wasn't too bumpy. And I kind of got through the bike, got onto the run, and the run you conclude with a marathon. So there was a lot of people cheering you on. So you kind of get pulled along by other competitors, you get pulled along by other people on the side of the road. Yeah, and I kind of scrambled myself over the line and got my first Ironman.
Yeah, it's some feat. It's something that I don't really possess as a person, as an athlete. It doesn't really float my boat. So I really commend anybody that does that. Just the mindset to keep on pushing is phenomenal, and I really do respect it. I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit. I'm going to skip forward because I want to talk about now. I want to talk about what's going on now. And this is something that it touches me deeply. As you know, I mentioned it earlier. You're doing something for a friend of yours who has brain cancer.
Yeah. And
that's correct. And it's cancer, or is it a certain tumour?
No, it is. So, if I can add a bit of context to it. So my friend, Mel Crossland, I've worked for Mel back in the early 90s. And we've kind of stayed in touch loosely. Great girl, possesses all the life skills and personality that you could ever wish for. Great parent, great wife. And she found out in January 2023 she'd got a brain tumour. Unfortunately for Mel, it's incurable. So I think after a period of almost hibernation and reflection, in typical Mel fashion, she wanted to do something about it. And so she has done something about it, and she's set up a charity called Brain Tumour Focus. And part of her ambition, and therefore legacy, is to purchase an MRI scanner that's specific to brain tumours and can perhaps help with early detection. The problem is it comes at a great cost.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost is in and around about £325,000-330,000 for this scanner. It's a lot of money. Now, Mel's done lots and lots of fundraising already. She's been magnificent, and she's got over £100,000.
Wow.
So that's really kind of good. And I was part of her charity ball last year, and she did a really incredible job, first class. However, she needs to kind of get that money. So what's she going to do? Now, fortunately, Leeds Hospice have said they'll match fund her. So she only needs half of that amount. And so she needs to do more events. So like as her friend, I have to support her. But what can I support her with? You know, I don't have money readily available to donate to her, but I can offer me. So if I can offer me, can I do something that is challenging enough for people to go, I want to contribute. I want to put something towards it. Because going back to her raising that money, there's been no research in this area for the last 30 years, as I understand it.
It's crazy, that.
It's incredible. Only 1% of all cancer funding is attributed and given to brain cancer. Yet incredibly, 1%. Yet incredibly, 1 in 4 people who get a brain tumour, they don't live past 12 months. It's the biggest killer in children and people under 40 years of age. So people can't change and raise the money, even if they wanted to, because 25% of them aren't getting that opportunity.
Yeah.
So what can we collectively do to change the dial on that?
Yeah, and it hits really deep with me, that one, because when you say there, you know, most people that get that diagnosis don't go past 12 months.
Yeah.
My mum got diagnosed with a brain tumour in 2006, at the end of November 2006, and she died on the 5th of December 2006.
Yeah.
So they said that she would be less than a year, and it was actually just less than 2 weeks. So obviously with that in mind and knowing what you're doing, and yeah, I'm really passionate for that message to be spread, and also the awareness of it, of that there hasn't been and still hasn't been. I thought it had moved on a little bit by now, but obviously with the statistics that you're just pulling there, it's still not moved on that much in terms of research and development and things and early detection. So yeah, something I'm really passionate to push and spread and let people know about, because it's a matter of life and death and early detection, isn't it? We need to know these things, because it were a helpless situation. Like, I've always been kind of like a solution focused kind of person, you know, and right, come on, crack on, let's go. And she were very much like that too, and she tackled it head on. But obviously it was something that I asked the question, what could have prevented this, and how did this happen? That was me beginning my curiosity into the health world. I wasn't particularly a healthy person, even though I played rugby.
Yeah.
I wasn't that healthy. And then that sparked my intrigue into knowing more about health and trying to understand it. But basically the answer was, it's just one of those things, and that is all that we were given. And it's like, come on, we have to know more than that, don't we?
We do need to know more than that. And I think one of the challenges that we all face is that there's so many people with so many different plights for different reasons, and it's where we try and focus ourselves. But with Mel being a close friend of mine, I have to do something for her, and the only way I know is to put my body on the line and committing to doing something that's, you know, particularly difficult.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, the thing is, there's reservations here when I talk about this, because obviously amongst my peers, it's normal, right?
It's fucking crazy to me, mate.
It's normal. So, concluding Ironman, I started doing some trail running in 2019. I kind of went back to my roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love the national parks. I'm an old romantic. You know, I love the Lake District. I could spend hours there because I get peace from it. So I got back into trail running in 2019, and a bit like with a triathlon journey, it was like, where do I take it? So I started off and I did a 50-mile race. It was called Lakes in a Day. And then that's kind of just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've taken it into Europe. So I've raced like Gran Canaria. I've raced in the Pyrenees. This year I did Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, which is almost like the mecca for trail running.
Yeah.
So that's 108 miles.
That's insane, mate.
Yeah, round Mont Blanc. So you start in Chamonix in France.
Very dangerous, right?
It can be if you don't look after yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's really well supported and you're really well looked after. But you've got 30,000 feet of climbing to do, which is like 10,000 metres. It's non-stop. And that particular race, you get 46 hours, or 46 and a half hours, I think now. But it's a journey. And when you're on that journey, it's incredible, because you've got the highs and the lows of that journey, which we can get into as well.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in Ultra Trail Mont Blanc this year, I had the highs and the lows of that journey. But that for me is it's the fascination, it's part of finding out who I am. However, it's not enough. And that little boy in the wellies wants to run through a few more fields. I don't want to run around that same field. So I came across the Spine race. And the Spine, I saw it on television, and I saw Jasmine Paris, who's an absolute legend, winning the overall race. And I thought, that's a bit of me. I could identify with it. And the Spine, it's the backbone of England. It's the Pennine Way. And the Spine runs, for your listeners, from Edale in the Peak District through all of the national parks, and it ends up just over the Scottish borders in a place called Kirkyet-Home. And the distance of that is 268 miles. So there is a race both in winter and summer to do. Well, I can't do summer because That's a bit easy.
Too
isn't
easy,
it?
that, isn't it?
Yes, you got to do winter. Now, I was going to throw myself straight in and do the full 268, but I realised even someone like me needed to perhaps learn some of the skills needed and adapt, because this is a bit more of an expedition race, and you carry a lot more kit because the risk is even greater. So in January of this year, I did the southern part of the race, which is 108 miles. So that goes from Edale and ends up in Hawes at the top of the North Yorkshire Dales. Yeah.
Treacherous conditions as well, weren't there?
Yeah, so it got waist deep in snow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, let's go for a walk or a run. -15 when I was going over wooden tops at Haworth. I had ice on my eyebrows. I was frozen, but I was driven. And I had a purpose, and my purpose was to get to the end. And what you find along the way is you find people who you race with, and you look after each other. So that basic concept, once again, of looking after each other, supporting each other, sharing your life with somebody who you didn't know, but by the end of the race becomes like one of your close friends.
Shared hardship.
And I found that in a guy called Ryan. So oddly enough, he's doing this race in January. So I did that race. Even at my old age, I managed to get in the top 30.
Yeah,
overall.
let's put into context here. How old are you?
I'm 52, but I'm nearly 53.
Right. So, and then what's the total distance that you're about to embark on? And
So
it's
this
in
next
January.
Yeah, so the Spine Challenger North is the balance of the overall. So the 108, it's 160 miles.
So, you know, when you hear people that are like 40, 45, and they're saying, I'm too old, you know, what's your message to somebody like that?
Change that mindset straight away. Change that mindset straight away. People say age is a number. Change that mindset straight away. You can be whatever you want to be. Your benchmark's you. Your benchmark is always you. Do not listen to other people. Other people want to pigeonhole you.
I think it's don't listen to your own bullshit as well.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
tell ourselves a lot of bullshit. Do you know what, actually? I've not done a lot of running recently. It plays havoc with my hip a little bit.
Yeah.
I broke my leg playing rugby. I shift a lot of weight to my left side. Don't do too many good things if I do a lot of distance. If I rack a lot of miles up in my legs, it's not great on that side. And I thought, you know what? I'm seeing Mark today. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a run. I usually teach my class, or I'll do something within my class. And I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to run after the class just to sort of really get me into the spirit of what today's about. And I had loads of negative shit going on prior to, because I've not run for a while. And I had loads of like these little shitty noises going on, like, oh, you've not run for a while, are you? You think your hip's going to be okay? Oh, it's cold, isn't it? You know, all these silly little things that you come up with, and we can just flood our mind in rumination and bollocks.
Yeah, but there's no perfect conditions to get going. And sometimes you just got to get going. When I was a young lad, my dad used to say to me, there's doers and there's gonna doers, Mark. He says, don't be a gonna doer. Just get on and do it. And sometimes we've just got to make a start. But because of the way our world is right now and the accessibility we have to things like social media platforms, everything's looked at under the microscope. And sometimes we've got to kind of pull ourselves back a little bit and just get on with the task at hand and actually work it out as we go along. We don't have to work every single detail out.
Yeah. So when you're about to embark on something like this, what's generally going through your head? You know, because I can only relate it to something that I did in 2020. I did a Guinness World Record attempt, and I couldn't properly prepare for it because it was sleep deprivation. So I'd not really conditioned myself for the event, because it were a 52-hour unbroken audio live stream.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have any longer than 5 seconds of silence, and you had to keep it going like this, like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And we'd organised the event, which took a fair bit of time, trying to figure out who we were gonna talk to at like 3 a.m. You know, that kind of thing. And once we'd mapped it all out, we were like, oh yeah, well that looks like a plan. But now we've got to do it. And I'm like, I have no resources to pull from here because I've not actually tried anything like this before. And I value my sleep quite a lot. And studies are coming out more and more about the importance of sleep. But I can only relate it to like what you're doing, because you can't fully prepare for that, other than you've got to get some distance in your legs, but you don't know what conditions you're going to be met with. So how do you mentally prepare for that?
Yeah, so I do give it some consideration and I do think about it. But my why's massive. So in my head, I've already done it. My why's massive. And when your why burns, like my why burns, it's about actually how am I going to get to where I'm going to get to, rather than can I do it. So that's my starting point. But I use other things as well, because there's going to be a lot of things that happen in that race of 160 miles, 5,000 metres of climbing. I'll be in -15, maybe -20 on the temperatures. I could be getting knocked over on Crossfell in the Pennines, because Crossfell is a fell that can just sweep you off your feet. I could be in blizzard conditions. I could have fog. I'll be dehydrated at times. I won't have eaten enough. I'll definitely be hallucinating. So my decision making will be hampered.
Have you been there before? Hallucinations?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
What's that like?
Amusing.
I like that. I like that, because that's just flipping the switch, isn't it? It's perspective. It's either your worst nightmare or it's funny.
Yeah.
And if you think of it as being funny,
so
then
I were in. I'm right to share. I were in Gran Canaria. So I raced them for Gran Canaria, 80-mile race, and bad weather seems to follow me around. So my mates who know me go, "You don't race with Mark because it'll be an extreme condition," and there were storms, and it were bad. It were heavy rain. I were expecting sunshine, and I got to the last climb. And I thought, this guy said to me, "You've got to just run up over this hill." He said, and it wasn't just a little hill. And then you run along this track at the bottom, which were a dried riverbed. So you can imagine that can't be all your blisters. And I'd started getting traces of things. And I'd looked on this hill, and I looked at this satellite dish, and I thought it was Stig off Top Gear. So I saw Stig, and I'm thinking, is that Stig off Top Gear? And I started laughing and go, it's not Stig off Top Gear. And then all the vegetation is obviously very different to what's over in England. And I was imagining, when you get like a balloon, you can blow it up and you can make a dog out of it. I was seeing stuff like that. Wow. Yeah, like it was strong hallucinations. So, but I found it, I went with it, because there's a word, there's a theme that runs through all of this as well, which is acceptance. It's just accepting your situation. So I was accepting that I was going to be in this situation, and it was okay, and I laughed about it. And I had something similar on the spine. So me and my mate Ryan, we picked a lad up towards the back end of the race. He didn't have appropriate clothing on, so we had to make sure we had to kit him up, because we had to look after him. We made sure he had something to eat, but he was hallucinating, and he could see pigs and televisions flying past his head.
Wow.
Yeah. So hallucination it definitely happens, and it just happens differently for people, because some people get full on, some people get traces, but it's something you just got to contend with.
That's like you've been chomping on mushrooms, aren't we, around?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't realise it'd be that extreme.
It can be, yeah. It can be. So that goes back to part of your planning, so you're going to get bad moments.
Yeah.
You're going to get difficult times, but it's actually having the fortitude and the resilience to say, problems are rising, it's fine, I've identified it, I'm now going to provide a solution. And then having the right decision-making process to be able to do that.
Yeah. So
examples of that might be, my foot is getting a bit sore. Well, if I'm racing 160 miles, I can't just wing it, it's not 10k. I'm going to have to address it. If I've got a problem with your shoulder strap because it's rubbing, I'm going to have to address it. If I don't, it'll become a bigger problem. Mm. And that's part of the thing when you're looking at expedition races, is dealing with the problem there and then. Because if you let it go, then you've got an issue.
So what about recovery then? Is the goal for you just to complete, or are you setting your stall out for, I want to complete it by here? Because that becomes different again, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I have like a fantasy in my mind, when I'm out running, things going through my head. There's a lad who I beat in an ultra and he came 7th. I'm thinking, can I come 7th? So that's kind of come through my head. But my goal ultimately is to complete. I need to complete for me. I absolutely have to complete for Mel. And that's a given, I'll get that done. But actually, can I perform? And it's getting the balance of making sure I don't go too quick too early to get the result that I'm after. But if I don't get the result that I'm after but I finish, then I'm happy with that as well.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation. We've just got a quick message for you. At the heart of this podcast, Dan, is human connection.
It sure is.
And now it's amazing for us to say that we also build fully bespoke saunas from design, build and install that also promote the exact same thing, mate, human connection. There's a theme here.
There is. And all built to last, like we just keep saying. We wanted to provide products that last a lifetime, not just for a matter of months. Yeah. That's exactly our ethos and our message. So we wanted the products to match that, and they are the highest quality, the highest form of timber, the best quality heaters, and tempered glass to suit.
Wow. We've not spared expense there, mate. If you're thinking of upgrading your space, whether it's your home, business, studio, wherever you can fit a sauna, basically, we can build it for you. So visit us website on immersesaunas.co.uk and we'll take it from there. We look forward to building your dream sauna shortly.
Oh yeah. So in terms of planning something like this out, do you think to yourself, right, I'm going to take a rest point here, and are you mapping it out like that, and are you thinking, right, I'm going to get some shut-eye and I'm going to try and get in a ditch somewhere around here? Is it that kind of thing that and what do you have to carry? Because I'm guessing you have to be as light as possible as well.
Well, the idea is to try and go light, but not to compromise safety. So the kit check in the spine is probably, and most spiners will tell you, it's like probably the most stressful time because it's done on the day. But the kit's like really extensive, so when you're looking at a medical kit and you need hypodermic needles, if you're looking at your nutrition, you've got to carry a certain amount of calories. You must carry a bivy bag, you must carry a sleeping mat, you must carry all of certain standards, you must carry a sleeping bag, right? So there's kind of loads and loads of essential kit. You even need a poo shovel.
Wow.
So you've got to basically poo and bury it because you might be in the middle of nowhere, and ultimately you've got to respect where you are. So the kit's really extensive.
Full dog mode, isn't it?
Full dog mode, mate, yeah.
You're going to do that scrape on floor as well?
I'm not I'm not going to say anything.
Possibly if you're hallucinating.
If I'm hallucinating, I might see my mate doing it. But the whole thing for me, it's like, as I've been saying to you before, I go out there and I practice. So I'll go out on the course. So visualization to me is really important. So I'll be going up tomorrow and I'll be going up on Great Shunner Fell because I'll be doing that in the dark. So if I'm familiar with my environment, I'm more comfortable with my environment. So I practice that sort of thing. So I'll pick aspects or distances within that 160 that I'll go up to and I'll go, right, I'm going to train and I'll get on there. And then when I'm in that space, I've been there before. What I've slightly jumped away from is, where do I sleep? How do I plan it? So there's 3 checkpoints, 3 key checkpoints. There's some smaller checkpoints, but there's 3 key checkpoints. And you can spend a reasonable amount of time in them. So I think it is something like 6 to 8 hours maximum, but I won't spend 6 to 8 hours. But I can tell you my protocol for going in there. So my protocol for going in there is, I go in, I take all my electrics off. Phone, watch, sat-nav, my head torch, and I put them all on charge. It's the very first thing that I do. The second thing is that I'll get out of my wet clothes because I've got a drop bag. So I might put a new base layer top on, new base layer bottoms, freshen up, maybe take a shower. I'll have something to eat. So I've done some basics, everything's charging. If I'm at a stage where I need to sleep, then I might try and get an hour or 2. So then I'll go to sleep. I'll use my sleeping bag that I've got, not in my bag that I'm racing with, but in my drop bag. I'll sleep there, I'll wake up, I'll eat again, toilet if necessary, and then get out. And I'll repeat that cycle when I get to that next aid station. And I'm like that on the course. But
are you predominantly alone as well throughout this?
Yeah, you are alone. But sometimes it benefits you to go with other people.
Yeah.
So going back to the ladder race within in the Spine South, we decided we weren't going to sleep, and we winged it. But we got to like 40 hours, and he was struggling. And he said, we need to sleep in this ditch. So we're on Camai Road, which people might know in the Dales. And they were I said, what we're going to do? He said, well, we need to ring HQ. So we dialed in, give a 6-figure grid reference, and then just got down in his sleeping bags inside his bivvies. And we had 20 minutes. And when we woke up, felt brand new. Like, oh my God, like, this is amazing, right? So we steamed ahead, 5 or 6 miles in, crash.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I went, he was knackered as me. I went, I'm back to square one again. But we only had like 8 or 9 miles left. Right. So we were trying to wing it all the way. Whereas with this race, there's no chance. You know, we've got 108 hours to complete this. And 160 miles means we're going to go into multiple days. So we need to tactically find somewhere to sleep. And the checkpoints are a good idea. But if not, you sleep anywhere. I'd jump in the back of a pickup truck. I'd get inside somebody's bin. I'd sit on someone's bench outside the farmhouse. No, but do you know what I mean? I'd curl up anywhere. There's pictures of people in bush shelters just to try and get that little bit of respite before you need to crack on.
It's unbelievable. It really is. It really is unbelievable. And I
But
massively commend you for it.
Anybody can do it, mate.
Yeah.
Anybody
it's
can
just,
do it.
It is literally just, it's one foot in front of the other, isn't it? And just
It
keep
is.
going.
Look after your feet. Always look after your feet and feed yourself. They're the big things, really.
Yeah. So something else that were really interesting for me to speak to you about today was you got involved in a study at Leeds University regarding carbohydrate fueling, sort of optimal doses. Did that include hydration as well?
No.
That's something else that I want to go to as well, you know, in terms of fueling's massive, isn't it? You know, and it can either make you or break you. And it's not sometimes the will of the person, it's the strategy and the timing of things and the dosage of things. So what did you find within those studies? What was it that you did and what did you find?
Yeah, so a bit of background to that. I'd been following a chap called Paul Booth. So Paul is a nutritionist and a physiologist. And I think he won, I don't know, it was like a scholarship or something, but he won something to do a PhD at Leeds University. And Paul's been working with a number of athletes over a number of years. Credible guy. And then earlier this year, he got an opportunity to work with 2 really elite runners who happened to go on and win Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. And one of those elite runners, Tom Evans, had DNF, so didn't finish, at UTMB the 2 previous years. So actually, by Paul getting involved with Tom and with Ruth, and then having the success that he's had this absolutely meteoric rise. So a lot of what Paul's saying, a lot of his study and his research is incredibly credible, and people are listening to it. And he's also the nutritionist or chief nutritionist for Salomon. So he's in a really good place, he's really knowledgeable, and he's based in Leeds. And I thought to myself, surely there's something I can learn from that man, whether it's at his seminars. I think I mentioned it to you about going to a seminar before when I was with Lewis. So he put it out there that he wanted participants to get involved in a field case study he was doing. And it was about carbohydrate dosage and a response to carbohydrate dosage. And he's looking for people between 18 and 55. So that gets me just in, doesn't it? But it was after like high performing. This is where I'm going to lie.
You down bottom end, right?
Yeah. But it was after high performing amateurs and or elites. And he was looking for 30 people. And I thought, I'm not high performing, but I'll put my case across, right? So I wrote to him, expected nothing back. And he rang me. And he said, yeah, we'll take you. So I thought, crikey. So I had a bit of imposter syndrome because I'm turning up and, and there's people who are like 3 stone soaking wet and can run super quick. But I turned up to get a part of this study. So what Paul did was he defined a course to mimic a trail running race. It was a 55-kilometre course. It was in the Eastern Lake District starting in Kentmere. And the idea was he was going to put carbohydrates into us through that period, and we would fuel every 20 minutes. And we wouldn't know what we're taking, so it's a blind study. And then he would start to gather data. So when we first turned up, I filled out a questionnaire. I had my blood pressure checked. I did a urine sample. So a urine sample was to see how much glucose I actually pee, because everybody pees different levels of glucose out of the system. I must have realised I was fit for purpose. They took a blood sample. And then I started filling out questionnaires around my gut and stuff like that, how I've been feeling. And then we got a brief.
Did you have to go into your general nutrition as well, like what you usually fuel on and things like that? Because obviously different foods are doing different things to the gut, and your microbes are massively important.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of people mess with like pre-comp or pre-race nutrition. You know, just trying to go, oh well, I'll go with, and it's like, well, you don't usually eat it, so how do you know if that's going to be okay?
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things he wanted us to do 2 days prior was to follow some of his options for food, which were like I had like cornflakes with like Greek yogurt. Then I was having like honey on bagels. You know, it was kind of that kind of thing, but eating a lot of it. So I was saturating my muscles basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what we'd done beforehand. Prior to that, he wasn't too concerned what we'd been eating, but he didn't want us to have any supplementation. He didn't want us to be drinking beforehand. So he wanted us to cut all that kind of out.
So no electrolytes?
No, just to fuel as normal.
Right.
Because, you know, there's a lot, and we're slightly going off the tangent, but there's a lot about thinking when people are dehydrated that they need to put electrolytes in the system. And there's a lot of people on Instagram kind of showcasing products to say like you need to have your electrolytes every morning. Well, actually, it's not. You need to hydrate every morning. You don't always need to have your electrolytes because there's no studies out there, right? It's a bit of a swizz, really. But that's only my view. And from what I'm listening to Paul will say, you know, you probably don't need electrolytes for the first 4 or 5 hours, subject to where you're at. But in your brain, you're fueling all the time and you're putting your salt in and you're going to be doing all these things, but do you need it? So when I turned up, I'd gone through that. And the idea was some of the group were going to have 90 grams of carbohydrates an hour, and some of the group was going to have 120 grams of carbohydrates an hour.
Okay.
So,
and was that nothing to do with their weight, their muscle mass, their background? Were nothing like that tested? The gender?
No.
Right.
No. I mean, he can pull data from the gender, but there wasn't any requirements beforehand based upon what you've just said.
Okay.
So we'd take a 40-gram gel every 20 minutes, so that covered 80 grams. And then there was like a clear liquid bag with a little screw cap, and we didn't know what was in it. But it either had 10 grams in of liquidy gel, or it had another 40 grams in, which would take you to your 120. So every 20 minutes, irrespective of how you felt, how nauseous you were, you had to have it, which was interesting. So bearing in mind, it's 55k, so it was just over 17 kilometres a lap.
Which is no joke of a distance either.
No, the whole thing was 2,500 metres of climbing.
Wow.
On pretty tricky conditions as well, because one of the days it was incredibly waterlogged. And he'd said, oh yeah, it's probably all runnable. But he's probably thinking of Tom Evans who won UTMB and not a 52-year-old man. It wasn't all runnable.
Right.
But nonetheless, we'd come in every lap. And when we came in every lap, we'd sit down. We'd obviously get ready to refuel for the next lap. But would there be a gut questionnaire? So they'd be asking whether or not you were bloated. They'd be asking whether or not you'd been sick. Did you feel any intestinal pain? And there were maybe about a dozen questions. And you scored them on a 0 to 10 basis. And whilst that was happening, your finger was being pricked. And they were taking blood vials. One was for glucose, and then one was for lactate.
Right.
And every time you came back in to do a lap, you had to fill out a questionnaire. You had to have your bloods done. Then you went out and you got refueled again. And then Paul was accruing all that information on you and everybody else, because that was obviously then supporting his study about the effects and impact of certain amounts of carbohydrate whilst racing under these particular conditions.
Right. How many people took part?
Well, he originally wanted 30, he wanted 15 men and 15 women. He had a lot of women drop out on him on that first week for whatever reason. So I think they ended up being about sort of just short of 20 of us in total.
Right. What were the findings for you specifically?
I would have known yesterday.
Oh, really?
But It's going to be. I've been pushed to next week,
Oh, right.
which is not helpful for this.
Oh, I'd love to know on that.
But
Yeah, I'm so curious about this.
Yeah. I mean, what I did know is that one of the lads had said to me when I came in on my last lap on the second run, as in the 2 weeks later after the first, he'd said to me, your lactate's at 2.3, and I went, right. And he goes, no, that's good. It's good. It means you're pacing well. Your muscle fatigue is okay. I didn't purposely do that. I just went at the effort that I went at, which was relatable to my fitness. So I will get more of that data. But part of being part of that study, Paul said to me, we'll get you into the lab, into the university. We'll get you to do some threshold work, some VO2 work. Something we probably want to speak about is VO2 work. And then you'll do a DEXA body scan where we look at your bone health. And then one or two other bits and pieces, totaling value-wise at about just under $1,000. And then he additionalised and said, you know what? He said, I'll do your nutrition for the spine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Bonus.
yeah, absolutely right. So, having someone with his pedigree doing that for being part of his study is kind of really cool.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I was nauseous the first time round.
So when you did that every 20 minutes, you didn't feel good on that?
Not on the first run I did. Yeah, on the first run I felt awful. Now, whether that's other matters, I've got no idea, and I'll hopefully find out in due course, but I was nauseous.
Right.
So can you imagine having to have another gel when you don't want to have it?
No.
It's not good. But you're part of a study. It's only going to last, the 55K for the quickies was about 5.5 hours. It was between 5.5 and 8 hours. So you're only going to last for a defined period of time. And ultimately trying to do something for Paul so he can, come out with something positive for other people, for research.
And did you pull through down the stretch, when you were getting near the end, when you sort of like 48, 50, 50K-ish, did you feel like you had enough in you to keep driving, or were you absolutely spent?
You meant to treat it like a race. So there's a bit when you're going down a pass called Gatesgarth Pass, and for those who've walked on it, it's quite rocky underfoot, but you come off there from a place called Mardale Head, and your legs are trashed because you're running down, and
Quads.
your quads are really trashed because your legs straight, right?
Yeah.
And but there's a little kicker before the finish. So actually, I knew psychologically, once I would get into this little kicker of an hill, I was going to be struggling again. And then when you get over the back of it, you've only got a couple hundred metres. So you gain confidence in it, and you've kind of got over the worst of it, but it's still a challenge.
Of course. When you've done something like that, it's a big ask.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get any easier with age, does it?
No. I wish it did.
So, yeah, I think you become wiser, don't you? But definitely it takes a toll on you physically. Do you get a bit of like post-race blues, and does it take a while before you get in your groove again? And have you got a strategy? So I know I'm chucking a lot of questions at you there, but do you feel like it really tanks you, in terms of your energy, your testosterone, your libido, you're willing to get up on a morning? And does it, and then do you have a strategy for that?
Does it tank me? It does. It does tank me. My recovery just takes longer.
How long does it take?
Compared to how I used to be?
Yeah.
Another 3 or 4 days.
It's not too bad, is it?
No, but that's kind of, when I say what I'm referring to there is, like when I'm stiff and it just rolls on that little bit extra. But there's no alternative, Dan. I can stop and go to the pub, or I can keep on going. Me and my mate, right, my best mate Eddie, me and my mate, we have a bit of a joke. We say, when you go up to the toilet in the middle of the night, and we pop to the toilet and we go for our sit-down wee, how you are when you get up in the middle of the night is how you're probably going to be in the morning. Because sometimes when you're older, you go to bed and you're all right, but you wake up injured.
Yeah.
It's true. So...
I'm saying that now, and you've got a few years on me.
Yeah. So do I get blues? I can, when you put a lot of effort into something, and then it stops. A lot of people tend to then try and find that next thing, and I'm no different. But I've got such a desire to improve and to set the example to my friends, to people that kind of casually know me, to my children, that I have to keep going. And the fact that I have kept going has then given me this opportunity to work with Mel.
What's your biggest motivator?
Me.
Nice.
Me. My biggest purpose is me. You can look outside yourself and call out your children, call out other people. Your biggest motivation is yourself. And if you're asking me, is that driven out of fear? I don't know. But my biggest motivation is me. My biggest challenge is me. I will never, ever reach where I'm looking for. I won't get there. I know I won't. So I'll do the full spine after I've done this 160. There's an Arctic spine. I want to do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't think I'll get there. So my motivation's me. And the more I've learnt about myself, we've spoken before about motivation. We had that conversation. So what is motivation? Your listeners will be thinking, well, I hear people talking about motivation, but what does that mean? I hear people speaking about discipline. Well, what about that? Am I disciplined? What is resilience? All these things kind of factor in. But what do they mean to people? How do they apply them? So for me, if I can share that with your listeners, motivation is your why. Your intention is your what. Your why drives your what. And I can give everybody today their why. I'll come back to that. But if the why drives the what, the motivation is the intent, drives the intention, that then gets you a plan. You get an agenda. So they either got to come to someone like you, who's excellent at what they do, or they do it themselves, or there's a hybrid of that plan. So they get the plan. And that in itself can be difficult, right? Because people don't know where to turn. But once they've got that and they know what the options are to get the plan, they've got the plan. But from the plan, they need to then execute the plan. Any plan. Nutrition plan, cardio plan, strength plan. They need to execute the plan. And then they need a behaviour to do that. And that's where discipline comes in, right? So discipline is a behaviour to help you execute the plan. Because if you execute the plan, you get consistent. And the longer term consistency that you have, the more you're going to achieve the outcomes and the goals that you're trying to set yourself, and maybe the identity that you want. So all that sounds good in principle, but the reality is that we don't get there. Whether we're elite sportsmen, and they'll kid you on that they do, or whether we're amateur athletes, we don't get there. But this is where resilience comes in. So resilience for me is that I know that I'll have a problem and I can't, train one evening because my kids are at Leeds Rhinos. Or actually I don't fancy it today. Or that I went out and had too many beers the night before. But it's my rapid response to my plan and failing to execute my plan that keeps my plan going. And that's what resilience is, mate. Resilience is a rapid response to lapses. It's got nothing to do with no discipline. It's got nothing to do with lack of willpower. It's got nothing to do with lack of motivation. Because life gets in the way. We do not execute the plan. We want to do, but we don't do. So actually, how do we bounce back from that? And that's resilience. That's the magic. And I think the first thing to do is to acknowledge that actually tonight I've missed that session. The second part of that is to neutralise it, because actually that doesn't define who I am because I've not done that plan or I've ate that extra cream cake. That doesn't define who I am because I'm on this longer term journey. So you've got to neutralise it, acknowledge it, neutralise it, and then you learn from it. So like, what can you do then next? Well, actually, if my kids are at Leeds Rhinos and they're taking up 4 or 5 hours of my time, I'm best to train in the morning. So actually, my implementation is to make sure that on a Wednesday and a Saturday and Monday and any other day that they go down there, that I'm training in the morning. So it doesn't conflict with what I'm doing. But that plan's imperfect, right? So you're never going to get it right. So you start, put something in place, and then you get on with it.
Sorry to interrupt you there, guys. We've got a massive announcement, Dan. We've managed to partner with Pure Sport, which is one of the most exciting brands at the minute in the UK, my friend.
That's it, built to last,
Mhm.
in it for the long run, as the hashtag says. All the similar sorts of messages behind the ethos of the brand, and it really fits in alignment with us. We know that they're athlete tested.
Even Lucy Bronze is using their products. She's a
Does.
friend of the show.
The magnesium and the ashwagandha and all those other products that are related to recovery are super useful for me right now. I'm really feeling the benefit. The electrolytes is definitely the best I've tasted.
They're the best I've tasted as well, without sounding biased, my friend. But yeah, it just lines up with everything that we preach, mate. No shortcuts, just solid daily habits that actually make you feel better.
If you want to try these guys, use the Immerse 10 for 10% off at the checkout.
Now back to the episode. Sorry for interrupting you there. Crack on.
Let's go. In perfect action.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
All the way in it.
Yeah.
I think something that's really powerful about what you just said there is the fact that you have something of significant effort coming up. But it doesn't stop there. You've just told me about something else that you desire to do. So you're kicking the can in terms of the motivation and the why and the things that you want to achieve. And you've got these ultimate goals still. So that's what it comes down to, I think, doesn't it? You know, if anyone's listening to this and they're kind of like, well, what does this mean to me? It's like, you've got a plan.
I've got a purpose.
And when you've completed this huge effort, which you're going to do,
Yeah.
you've got another plan because there's something else that you want to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's about that, isn't it? It's about always staying in alignment with what do you want to do.
Definitely. And there'll be people who won't know what to do. There'll be people thinking about, well, what should I do? What could I do? And what does it mean to me? And I think when we spoke about before about what is the motivation, can we give somebody the motivation to go out and do something today, tomorrow? What is that motivation? Well, if you look at and research papers around exercise physiology, you will increase your all-cause mortality rate by 400% if you don't do any cardio. Just let that sink in. 400%. I've just given every listener the reason to go out and start to change.
Get your trainers on, guys.
But whether that's going for a brisk walk, whatever it is, that's like more than smoking. It's more than binge drinking. If you don't do cardio, and strength's not too far behind, I don't have the exact number, I think it's like 200 to 250% increase in all-cause mortality. So if you aspire to want to live a little bit longer, but live healthier, well, you can mitigate that by getting out there and starting right now. And you don't have to do a 160 mile or a 268 mile race, but you can go out and you can improve your cardiorespiratory situation. So like my VO2 max, the last time I checked it, it was in the 50s. So in the 50s at 50s, putting me in a top percentile, granted. And it's not about me saying that, but when you think about that scale, I think you need 14 as a number to sit up and 19 to stand up. If you do nothing, that number comes down. It comes down over your lifetime. So when people start getting into the 50s and the 60s and they're saying, I'm getting tired, and they may go, yeah, it's because you're getting a bit older. No, it's not. It's got nothing to do with that. Get off your lazy backside and get something done about it. Because if you're incapacitated because you go and break your hip, that number will drop. No wonder you're out of breath because you're now in your 20s on that number. So it's really important, and anybody can change their VO2 max. You know, it's dead straightforward. It's not rocket science. You know, you've got to build that zone 2, as we say in endurance, where we kind of build that foundation, where you just talk and you can be walking. If you can run, great. But you're building that foundation, that aerobic capacity. But then you're doing the top end stuff as well, because you can actually change the way that number's going. So if that number's decreasing, you can increase that VO2 max.
Yeah.
So that's really important. So if you think about it, if the listeners took one thing away, is get started, do something. It doesn't have to be amazing, but do something.
Today.
today. And you know what? I'd speak to anybody. I've got no commercial gain in this. So if anybody wants to say, hey, Dan, who's that lad? Can you get him to speak to me? Or when he's up at Gym Senior, can I have a word with him? I'll speak to anybody. There's no commercial label. I'm not sort of putting a price on anything, but I'm trying to inspire people to be able to do something for themselves. It's really important.
You're certainly doing that, mate. You certainly are. In terms of donating to the cause, how can we do that?
Yeah, so if you go onto Brain Tumour Focus, you can just Google that. If people obviously not follow me on my social media and stuff, you can just kind of do that and then pledge on there. So there's a donate button and you can see who's donating. It's a bit like a GoFundMe, who's donating, a bit more about the charity, a little bit more about what's been done today, more of Mel's story as well. And yeah, I think if anyone wants to make any sort of contribution, then, you know, would be really welcome.
Yeah. Please donate, guys. And like I say, it's something that means a lot to me personally. You know, it's a heavy subject for me. You know, having a seemingly healthy 46-year-old woman who, you know, yeah, she liked a glass of wine. She didn't smoke. She were a hard worker, go-getter, good, vibrant soul. To have her taken away in the blink of an eye means a lot to me for this sort of thing to be pushed. So yeah, please check that out, guys, and donate. That would mean the world to me in particular, as well as your cause and your friend Mel. So the more people that know about this, the better, for sure.
Absolutely.
There's something that I want to finish on, which is I've had the pleasure of coaching your son for the last 2 years, and I've really enjoyed that journey with him. And I just want to say from the get-go, thank you for trusting me with your child all that time, you know, because I'm putting him through some stuff. And he came to me as a little framed 7.5 stone, wet through 12-year-old kid, and he's a bit of a strapping lad now, isn't he?
He's getting that way, and he reminds me when he lifts his t-shirt up and says, "Dad, you don't have this stomach."
I'm sure he does.
Obviously, I'm grateful first and foremost for Damo, right? So Damien Smith, he brought his stepson up, Lenny.
Yeah.
Damo is a rugby league coach, Birkinshaw Blue Dogs, but doing a bit with Bradford Scholarship now.
Yeah.
And
legend of a bloke.
He's a legend of a bloke. He's highly dependable. And yes, he's such a nice man. But he invited us up. I didn't know whether he wanted just half the cost, but he invited us up. And obviously Lewis trained with Lenny. And then for me, when you think about investing in your child, you know, rather than taking him into a fancy shop and buying him a £500 coat, why don't you put it into the health? Because I knew that actually, if I got Lewis off on the right start and he came to you and all the things that we've spoken around about discipline and turning up and doing the hard work, that actually, irrespective of where his rugby takes him, he'd have something for life. So that investment's really important, and I would encourage any parent to find someone like you, Dan, to set the kids off on that right track. Don't take them to McDonald's and spend a fortune. Take them to come see someone like yourself, and that investment's a really worthwhile investment. More so, I'd say, than putting it in an ISA, because you're getting them off on that right trajectory. So it's really important that people consider that.
It's all the tools, isn't it, that you learn along the way as an individual. You know, failing nearly every week, you know, and that's not in a bad sense. It's like missing a lift. It's okay, go again.
Absolutely.
Doing this particular drill, fatigued and losing your position and your coordination. It's okay, go again. It's that constant reminder that it's okay, play on. And Definitely. That's what sport teaches you as well, but also taking that time out for yourself to commit to that 1 hour, or however long it is that you're going to go into it each week, and committing that time to getting things wrong and learning about your own mindset and your own resilience. It is very valuable.
Yeah, it is, mate. And I think, you know, so he's 2 years in with you. He's put 4 stone in weight on.
No body fat.
No body fat.
He's not gained any body fat.
Yeah. which he reminds me of. But he's been fortunate. He's been offered a scholarship contract at Leeds Rhinos, which he's now underway with. So, him and his sister, I need to mention Sienna because it's always all about Lewis, but she's at Leeds under-19s. So, I spend a lot of time at the minute going down Kirkstall and letting them, go and chase their dreams. And it's just one step at a time with them. But wherever the journey takes them, I'll be there for them.
Yeah. And
whether it's in rugby or elsewhere, that's okay by me. But I have to also thank you for everything you've done with him, because it's important, and I said it in my reference, is that you're not just a coach and a mentor to Lewis. You're a friend and you're a trusted person. So having key people around you is really important, mate, and you're a key person for Lewis.
Thank you. That means a lot, honestly. I've developed this thing now. Obviously I played rugby myself. It's a sport that I'm super passionate about, as well as athletic development. It just runs hand in hand now. I've just become this sort of thing where it's like, you play rugby and you've got a bit of potential, go see Rama is kind of the word on the street locally, which is great. I ended up there by accident.
But what's good, mate, is that you've got Will as almost like your finished article, and what Will may or may not know is that the ripple effect of what he's done through you, that'll inspire someone like Lewis,
100%,
or inspire someone like Jack or Lenny, whoever it might be.
Yeah,
and they think, well, actually, we can become Will. Whether they get there or not, is another story. So that's really important.
It's evidence, isn't it?
It's evidence.
I want to shout out Leon for that though, because if it wasn't for Leon, he trusted in me first. He was like, I see something in you in comparison to other conditioners that he'd worked with over the years, and I don't know what it was, but we're friends anyway. But because of that, it was an easy convert to get Will on side. Will then wanted to work with me because his dad had said good things, and his dad had one of the highest accolades in the sport.
Absolutely.
International level and all the rest of it. So with that, it was an easier transition for Will to come in.
Yeah.
And then that's just paved a little bit of a path and some evidence that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the drive for me personally as a coach as well, for anyone that's interested in what I'm saying here, is that I fell short of the mark, and there were certain things that I got wrong with my training, with my recovery, with my nutrition, with certain behaviours off of the field. I had a bit of potential and I didn't fully exceed. Certain injuries that happened at key moments were a huge factor, but I didn't come back from them well. And I didn't know what to do. I was just winging it completely. That's my passion. I don't want that to happen to another kid.
Yeah.
Because it pissed me off big time. I went through a long grieving process from that, because I was like so close, and then the rug got pulled, and time goes quick, so quick.
Yeah, it's funny you speak about time. I mean, when we went and had the parents briefing, we get a lot of those at Leeds, and Mark Buttrell was saying, Presley Cassell, who made his debut at Leeds Rhinos last year, he said it's 2 minutes since he's come through the system, and this evening, his dad's going to speak about the parent journey. But Mark Butchell had said it goes really quick. Scholarship goes super fast, and before you know it, you're getting a E or an A, and you're going into the academy. So it's enjoying every moment, learning everything, and doing everything that you can to give yourself that opportunity. And that's what Lewis is trying to do, and Sienna as well.
Yeah, and he really is, and he's a very well-rounded, driven, hard-working young man, and he's willing to do the extras. And all the traits that he has, he will be a successful man in whatever he chooses to do. Sport is one thing, and you have to have a little bit of luck, and timing has to be on your side in terms of things like little injuries that may set you back. And, I think when you get to an academy level, particularly like a senior academy level, you're 3 games away off being thrust into the spotlight. If you perform well, you're training well, the coaches have got an eye on you, they know what you're capable of doing. If you perform well, boom, 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 you're off. You're in. Let's go.
Yeah, and Leeds are very good at from my early eyesight on what they're doing on the training ground. You know, they'll bring the scholars in with the academy.
Good.
So Chev Walker will do that.
Good.
And they did it last Saturday. They did it a couple of weeks before that as well, just to integrate them, just to see what it's like, see if they can stand up. You know, Lewis has responded quite well to that, but it's the longer term game.
Well, I think with a father like yourself and the things that you do, because your drive is you, not anyone else, you're not living vicariously through him, you're living for you.
Yeah.
And he'll look up to that. So, you know, I just want to give you some credit there as well for you doing you and you being that person that is going to just by default motivate.
Yeah, and that's it. You know, I mean, everybody I want to come into contact with, I want them to leave them and go, do you know what, it was good speaking to Mark. You know, and I speak to people in the sauna.
Great place for a chat.
And I'll chat to them. We'll speak about they talk about nutrition. So I get and I know we haven't really gone into that, but I'll go, epidemiology, let's get into it.
Mm.
You know, and I want to leave them with something, not because I'm trying to be a know-it-all. It's just almost like, can I just share that with you? Because you might want to consider it in your thinking. So, yeah, you've got it with your community, mate. You know, and because you're highly likable and because you carry yourself with a lot of humility, I think that's why you're successful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's all right.
Thank you very much. Where can we find you, Mark? Just for anybody that wants to look into what you're doing or, you know, watch your journey from here in the things that you're going to attempt and achieve, for links for donations and all those sorts of things. Are you on Insta? I know you're on Facebook, Mark Kilner, but are you on Instagram?
I am on Instagram, yeah. I mean, it's not an exciting account, but it's at Mark Kilner 73.
Right.
So, yeah, but like I said, if people want to reach out to me and they need any advice, I'm more than happy to give that advice for free.
And I'm really looking forward to hearing about the study and what that comes back with.
Yeah, unfortunately, we kind of couldn't quite get that one over the line because Paul had to cancel because he double booked. But we'll get that sorted out. There'll be obviously the after effects of this particular race and then going on to doing the big one, and maybe the big one we can do a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited to see what happens, and
brilliant.
All the best for 16th.
Nearly. I'll be in hospital bed by then. No, 11th of January.
11th.
So yeah, so Sunday 11th of January at 6 o'clock the race starts. You can actually go on to the Spine website, get my race number. I don't know what it is. Get my race number and track me. So you can track my race all the way through. So for dot, they call them dot watchers.
Right.
So if people like dot watching, they'll be able to watch my dot.
Very significant dot though, and I hope it just keeps moving and it gets all the way where it needs to be.
Cheers, pal. It will do.
Yeah, I'll be definitely looking at that. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you. We were missing Al today, but I think we held it quite well. So
yeah, really enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, mate.
Take care.
All right. Good stuff. Done.